So what we'll do is we'll do a very quick recap from yesterday, and then we'll just go deeper. So who wants to give it a go and tell me the three types of trap? So maybe someone can start with type number one, if you still remember it.
Sure. Want me to draw it out or just tell you?
Yes, please, if you can use the annotation.
You got it.
Sorry.
Looks like he's already on it.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a continuation through.
Perfect, perfect. And that's exactly right. And then you have you draw your trap from the body and not the wick of that SNR. Yeah?
Yes. What about this one? What I noticed is into the examples from today is that, for example, if we have, let's say, a downtrend and here a pullback, punk, and the wick here, okay, when we take it, the last guy who started it, the release area enlarges to here, right? No, to here. So from here to here, is it correct or not?
So you have a down move.
Sorry, the trap area, yeah. And we have here a wick. So
needs to close the body below your line.
So what you have, so if I understand your drawing properly, so what you have is down move, that's your last seller, and then it goes down, then it does all that, comes
yes.
down, but never closes as a body.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. If it never closes as a body, then this remains as your last seller.
Okay. The trap enlarges to here.
Yeah, exactly. So your trap this is your break of the last seller, and that SNR all the way down to where that tail is becomes your trap area. Yes. The whole lot.
Here it's from the body. We can have a wick here.
Yes, over here from the body.
Yeah.
And over here, wherever the last price is. So if it's a wick, then it would be the very last end of the tail.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries.
I'll clear it.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So type number one, all good. Who wants to give it a go on type number two? John, do you want to give it a go?
Do you want us to draw it or?
Yes, please. Or Nicholas, that's fine as well, please.
Yeah, that's all right.
Perfect, perfect. So what it really is, it's either sitting at the SNR or it's at the SNR. That's perfect. Yeah. Okay. And maybe John, type number three, which is straightforward. Just want to make sure everyone is on the same page. Perfect. Excellent. Is everyone good with all this?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So if everyone's good, then let's move forward. So at least I know you all are with me at this stage. Okay. Now, what we said yesterday was that the first thing we need is a trap. However, like we said, you'll begin to see traps everywhere. We have to now filter them out and say which trap is good, which trap is bad or weak. Now, of course, putting the trap inside the bigger story, that's the core. However, we can also add more layers to the trap and say that's a trap. If we add further layers to it, then that trap becomes stronger and stronger. The first piece we added to a trap was volumes, right? So volumes, what we said yesterday was with volumes, we do volume analysis on the overview of the move. So overview analysis and then detailed analysis. We spoke about overview analysis. We touched upon detailed, but we'll go deeper into it today. So just a very quick reminder, an overview analysis for volume is when, let's say, you have a move like this, for instance, and let's say you have high volume at the bottom and low volume at the top. Any ideas what this means so far?
Buying pressure.
Yes, more buying pressure, right? And that buying pressure, the overview analysis, it tells you information about what could the higher time frame be. For example, if you've got a lot of volume at the bottom and a lot of volume at the top, which means there is a lot of buying pressure and a lot of selling pressure at the top. What this simply means is there's some sort of
ranges.
yes, there's some sort of a big range on a higher time frame that's developing at the moment. So without you switching to the higher time frame, it's giving you clues that you're looking into some sort of a bigger range on the higher time frame. Yeah, that's one information you can get out of the overview analysis. The other information that you get out of an overview analysis is, let's say you buy this and you're taking it up, then how far could you take it? Would you have issues along the way? That volume gives you that clue. For example, right now at the top, you have high selling pressure. So if you're buying it, it will give you problems. It won't let you go through that easily. However, if you have less selling pressure, which means less volume at the top, then chances of this going through is higher. Yeah, so it tells you your targets, tells you should you hold on, should you not, that sort of information. Now, all that is good. However, what we want to go deeper in today is, we said, while we look at the overview volumes, we should never forget that the same volumes are also within the traps. Same volumes are also within the traps. And today we want to talk about, okay, what does this volume mean inside that trap? Inside that trap. Yeah. So far, so good. Any questions before I go deeper into the detailed volume now?
No question.
So,
Yeah,
so
okay.
sorry. So when you say it is a range developing on the higher time frame, do you mean like this is what we're gonna be expecting? Is that Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's a possibility. Or it could also mean that on the higher time frame, this is still part of, let me draw it properly. Let's say you have,
Oops.
let's say you have this, and there is high volume at the bottom, high volume at the top. Then you say, could it be a big range on a higher time frame? And when you go to a higher time frame, you'll see this is all part of a bigger range, right? Whether this range continues to carry on and still form a range, or it could pop out of the range. It depends on what the story is telling us, which we'll talk about. But it simply tells you you're not in a trending market on a higher time frame. That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Or let's say, for example, you have more buying pressure at the bottom and less selling pressure at the top. It's telling you this move up is strong, it's healthy, it looks like a nice trending market. It could be nice and healthy on the higher time frame as well. Yeah. And likewise, if you have more selling pressure at the top and less buying pressure at the bottom, it's saying to you, could this be some sort of a bigger pullback for a downtrend on a higher time frame? Is it reaching some sort of a level at the moment? That's why the volume is coming in. Yeah, we'll talk about that properly in the coming days.
Okay.
However, what you need to keep in mind is that for now, higher volume at the top means selling pressure. Higher volume at the bottom, it means buying pressure. Why is that happening? We'll cover that in the coming days. Okay, now, anything else from anyone? I heard someone else asking questions. No, everyone's good?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me draw that schematic over here for an overview, so I can relate back to it. And let's say, for example, you have high volume at the bottom. Yeah, that's the overview piece. Overview is when you look at the bottom to the top and you compare the volumes. Now, let's zoom more into just that piece, that trap, where you have prices coming down and then you have your last seller over here before the trap happens. So far, so good, everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just draw that last seller first. So that's the move down and that's the last seller. Now, the same way we just read the overview volume from here to here, and we said where the pressure is, I want you to read it the same way on the last seller. And you say, this is the top, this is the bottom. Let's see where the volume is. Let's say you have high volume at the top and low volume at the bottom. Now, if you do an overview analysis of that last seller or that last leg down, what information do you get?
Selling pressure. Yeah.
Sell pressure.
Down thread, sell pressure.
There's more down, there's more selling pressure at the moment, right? What it generally tells you when you have more selling pressure is simply telling you that when a pullback comes in, it's got a higher chance to go to build orders and then go lower because the sellers are still strong. They've come in with high pressure. That's what it means. Yeah. So when you have more selling pressure at the top, let's say, let's bring in that scenario again where you say, oh, it's overextended and you're waiting on the sidelines to see what happens next. Then when that pressure comes in on the sell side and there's little volume or little pressure on the buy side, would it give you an indication that this last seller will get taken out easily?
No.
I would say no.
No?
You think you should try again, try to sell that again.
Very good. Very good. So the fact that our last seller comes in with high volume, high pressure, it says to us that it's got a higher chance to try again, or it will create a fight before a breakout happens of that last seller, if this happens to be the bottom. Yeah, and I'll come back to this in a minute, but as long as so far you all are with me, we'll come back to it in a minute. Okay, now, let's say, for example, this piece is that overextended piece and you're waiting for a trap to happen and your last leg comes in, your last seller comes in, and your last seller begins to give you very little volume at the top, telling you there's not much selling pressure, but gives you very high volume at the bottom, telling you there's more buying pressure. If you put that with the whole overextendedness, what information does it give you? What does it prepare you to that could happen next?
It might
Higher pressure.
Go through the
Possibly
seller.
break.
Yeah. It's simply telling you that, okay, you're waiting on the sidelines for a trap to happen, but look, now that last seller has come in with little selling pressure and there's more buying pressure at the bottom. It's got a higher chance to create that bottom, and it's got a higher chance to take out that last seller and create that trap below. So it's giving you an information before the trap even happens. Yeah? Okay, now. This is that edge that we have. So when high volume begins to come in at the bottom, telling us there is more buying pressure, that's the edge we have. We say, okay, looks like this last seller is going to be not so strong. Look at the volume is so low. For it to break through it, it's got a higher chance to do that. If that last seller comes in with more selling pressure or more volume at the top, then, like I said earlier, it's got a higher chance to try again and take it lower. So we don't have an edge when that last seller comes in with higher volume, because we don't know what's going to happen next. Yeah, it doesn't give us any clue. It still tells us the seller is strong. So far, so good, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So let's talk about this. And let's say, for example, this last seller at the top does come in with low volume. There's more volume at the bottom. Then when it gives you any opportunity to buy, then your buys have a higher chance to go through that last seller. Even if, let's say, you have some sort of a reaction from that last seller, it can push down first and then go through. That's a possibility. Or it can hold for a bit and then go through. That's a possibility. Or it can simply do that. But the whole fight from the seller is very little, generally. Okay, what this means is when this last seller comes in with little volume and there is more volume at the bottom, what this means is that you are now able to get involved in the buys early on before the trap even happens. Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
I want to ask you about the time frame of this one. The time frame of this one
60 minutes.
and this one.
Yeah, all 60 minutes at the moment.
All? Okay.
All 60 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, Ali, one question
Yes. Yes.
regarding the last drawing here?
Yeah.
If you have in this down, wait, I have to take. If you say you have a high volume down here,
Yeah.
but isn't it this for the range, or if we say we have a high volume with the range, but when it's pop up, it's low volume, it's still high, although, or it's two different things?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So as long as you have, let's say, from the top, you have low volume, and then as it's going down from that lowest point, you begin to have higher volume. And I'll show you on the charts, it'll make it easier. But from that point, you have higher volume. So even if you have higher volume here at this lowest point, right, a bit later, it doesn't matter, as long as you begin to have high volume from that lowest point. But I'll talk about that just in a minute. Okay, so what high volume at the bottom really means is you can get involved earlier. This becomes your trade number one. How you enter it, we'll talk about that later. But this becomes your trade number one. And once you have a trap, then of course, when it comes back for your release, that becomes your trade number two. Yeah. So what this detailed volume that we're talking about right now, which is you have low volume at the top and high volume at the bottom, it allows you to be part of that move that creates the trap. Yeah. That
Yes.
creates the trap. Okay. Okay. Now, one thing to keep in mind is this. Let's say, for instance, you begin to buy from here. Of course, this is something that I always try to mention because it's very important. The more you do and begin to get involved in such setups, the more you will notice the nuisances. But it's something that you would adapt day after day, which is when you begin to buy this and it begins to come to your seller, that seller, and then again, depending on what time of day it is right now, depending on if there's news coming out, depending on how active the market is, this can easily go through straight away. But if it doesn't, then sometimes prices may react first and then they go. Now, depending on what kind of person you are, I'm a type where if I'm in this buy and it goes all the way and I see all the profits coming in, I don't like the profits to get eaten up, even if it's temporarily. That's how say my personality is. But you could be different. You might say, well, that's fine. It's a very temporary pull back over here, and it goes, I will hold. In my case, I may not hold, for example. Right? So this whole risk management around what you do with this trade is your personal choice. It just sits well with your personality. Yeah. You all are very quiet. Are you all okay?
Yes.
Are you all with me? Please
yeah.
do talk
Totally.
back. Even
mean-
if you unmute, do talk back, because I get lost a bit if you all are very quiet.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm just
I
like
think
you.
we're all
Ali.
having a big aha moment here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay,
A quiet one.
a quiet one. Yeah. So that sits within your personality, how you are as a person, and if you are okay to see your profits get eaten up before you get more profits. That's understandable, right? However, I'm a type where I'd say I'll take my profits up to here, I'll close. If I get another opportunity over here, I'll get in again. Right? And of course, then the third opportunity would be when it comes back to the release. So the more you trade this, the more you begin to adapt and say, no, I'll my next, if it happens again, I'll do so and so. I'll do so and so. The luxury we have in this scenario, or the opportunities or the risk management options that we are weighing here and there, it's only because this last seller has come in with low volume. If this last seller comes in with high volume and there is no buying pressure at the bottom, we don't have any such luxury. We cannot even get involved at all early on. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, John.
Ali, here, okay, you said you can take the trade from here until here, and then add positions or take a new trade from here. But I think can we consider the volume also here during this zone? The volume.
Yes, I'll talk about that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you.
No worries. Yeah. So let's say we entered here, and it goes up, and let's say some of you hold on and it goes higher, and some of you don't hold on and you come out because you worry, what if it does this? And then of course you miss out on that move up, which is fine. It's always give and take. But it's best to stick with what you prefer to do. So whenever it happens, you do it.
Just a question.
Yeah.
So when you say you've got the low volume over here, when you say low, do you just mean lower than relative to this, or actually significantly, the sizes are significantly lower?
Yes, lower relative to that. And I'll show you on the chart. It'll make good sense.
Okay, thanks.
But yeah, but always in comparison to each other. Okay. So let's talk about a scenario where you have your last seller, and that last seller comes in with high selling pressure and low volume at the bottom. So high selling pressure and low volume, low buying pressure. Now, just to repeat ourselves, what does this tell us?
Sell bias is strong.
Sell buyer is strong, exactly. So what this really means is that when a pullback comes in, we should assume it's got a higher chance to perform and go lower. Even if it doesn't perform that well, it begins to go choppy, whatever the case is. But the fact that this has come in with high selling pressure, we say, looks like that move down is still going. If it's overextended, it's still going down with the same overextendedness, if that makes sense. You know how sometimes it's overextended and you say, oh, it must stop, and it still goes, must stop and still goes, right? Because it's overextended and it still wants to go. So we can't force it and say you have to stop. But it's that volume that gives you that information. Yeah. Yes, John.
Question: how can we know it is overextended? We number the legs, count the legs down, or other way?
It's the story. I'll come back to it. It's
Okay.
the story.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So then in this case, price begins to come up, and let's say it begins to hold. So far, if a trap happens, in this case, when the last seller comes in with volume at the top, then we say we cannot do anything until this last seller is taken out. You all good with that so far?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So let's assume that prices are here right now and it's doing all this at the moment. And let's assume that a trap happens. Now, what type of a trap is this? Type 1, type 2, type 3?
Type 3. Looks like type 3.
Type 3, yeah? Okay. So type 3, let's rewind a bit and say, okay, that trap is building. The trap hasn't happened yet, okay, but it's building orders around here. If this happens, we have a type 3 trap. If not, then it can go lower. Now, remember how I said to you yesterday and maybe before that, that when you have your last seller, then make sure the takeout is significant, correct?
Yep.
Now, why that happens, why that's important is because, and generally when you have high volume, high selling pressure at the top, when you have high selling pressure at the top, and although we don't know if a trap happens or not, because we don't have an edge, we don't have any information that tells us a trap may happen. Instead, we assume that it can go lower. But the fact that it's overextended, we're still on the sidelines to say, could this still be that bottom? Could this, if this gets taken out, could we have a trap? We are simply waiting for a trap to happen. So if a trap needs to happen, then even though we don't have the information, you'll see the buyers building up, and you see at some point a fight begins to happen over here, especially when it comes to type 3. You can see it a bit more obvious, is that at type 3, you begin to see within that range spikes go up, they come right back down. Go up, they come right back down. Go up, they come right back down. You see a fight between the buyers and sellers. Why is there a fight? Because the buyer wants to break up and create that trap, whereas the seller says, I won't let go. Not yet, not yet, not yet. Because of that strong selling pressure. Yeah, so when we say always wait for a proper breakout, so you don't get stuck in that, and you think, oh, it's a break of the last seller, and it's not a break. It just goes right back in. Yeah. Okay, so that fight and those spike in and out generally happens when that last seller comes in with high volume at the top. If you ever see that fight, always look back and see if there's high volume. You say, okay, it makes sense. Yes, John?
Okay, so just, looking at the range where you got all these, well, I guess there are, V formations. And you see that, okay, the buyer's trying and then the seller smacks it down. Buyer tries again, smacks it down. And you see all these multiple V formations happening from the sell side, downwards pressure. How does the money spot coming to this, or should I ignore that?
Okay, whatever you said right now, park it all aside. Don't think of it that way. Don't think of the V formation. Don't think of the money spot. Don't think of the test. Don't think of set 1, set 2. None of that.
Okay.
Whatever you're learning right now is a concept, and I will add to it, and I'll show you what each piece is.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions so far?
No.
No.
No from me.
Okay.
I have a question here. What about these spikes? Are they wicks here, or also body?
They could be body. They could be wicks. They could be doing this. So let's say this one, it goes up as a body. 1 second. It goes up as a body, and it comes down right away as a body as well. So you have maybe green candle here, and then a red candle straight away.
Okay.
Right? So what you have is you have a strong move up, a strong move down straight away. Or you might have a move up and then a complete rejection in the same candle, and you see a wick. But when it begins to break, a break simply means the buyers have succeeded, correct?
Yes.
The buyers, whatever fight there was happening at that last seller, right? Eventually, the buyers succeeded. When a buyer comes in, and don't forget, you are in a move down, you're trying to form a bottom in a move down. The only way a bottom is created is when a strong seller comes in, right? A strong seller, organically or naturally, the way a strong seller comes in is when, let's say, it breaks up, holds, showing you there's no selling pressure. That's why it's holding that tight, goes up, showing you there's no selling pressure. It's holding that tight, goes up, and then rolls over, and then comes down. You see, that process shows you it's a strong buyer with no attack from the seller. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you said yesterday that we can anticipate these reactions here. We can anticipate the fight, and we can anticipate the break. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll talk about it just now.
Thank you. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So far, so good. So when you have your last seller that comes in with high volume, always stand aside. Wait for a break to happen of that last seller. But when you have it coming with low volume and there's more buying pressure at the bottom, you can get involved earlier. Okay. Straightforward so far, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what happens if your last seller comes in with high volume and you've got high volume at the bottom as well? So you have equal high volume at the top and at the bottom. What do you think, as a concept, what do you think that tells you?
Going to side, we're probably in a range.
Consolidation.
Very good. Very good. Very good. So it's, first of all, two-sided market. Both buyers and sellers are active, right? And a possible range could form. Why? Because this will hit back and this will hit back. So a possibility of a range building up is higher. Now, even before that range builds up, generally when you have high volume at the top and bottom, it also gives you an information that there could be, it doesn't want to go up or down anytime soon. That means there could be a range building up for a higher time frame. So when a range builds up for a high over here on the 60 minutes, right? Because the higher time frame is not ready yet, but it looks like a range on the 60 minutes, but on the higher time frame, it may not look. It may be part of a price action that's just doing so and so, and then it just goes, right? But then because the higher time frame is not ready yet, and this belongs to a higher time frame, then the 60 will show you a sideways movement. But that information you get from those two-sided volume on either on both ends. Yeah. So in this case, of course, you do not get involved until it resolves and takes out that last seller. So similar to the previous example where you have your last seller coming in with high volume. But in this case, you have high volume at the top and at the bottom. But this one still comes in with high volume, so you cannot touch it until a trap happens. However, in the coming days, we'll talk about this where we say, is it possible if this range is developing for a much higher time frame, and we know what the story is of that higher time frame, then could we simply do range trade up and down without even looking to break up or break down? But
Yes.
Yes. However, I would suggest not to do all this at this stage. Just deal with it as a trap. Let the trap happen. Get more used to it. Be so comfortable with all these traps while you're putting it with a bigger story, and then open up pieces for yourself later on. Yeah. Okay, so this is the one where we say no touching. Just let the trap happen first. Okay. If everything is good so far, let's take a quick 5 minutes break. We come back and we go deeper.
Okay.
Shall we begin?
Yeah.
So, let's assume you have your last seller, and your last seller comes in with high volume, telling you there is strong selling pressure, and there is low volume at the bottom. What this simply means is that you have strong selling pressure and there's no buyers interested at this stage, or buyers who are interested are lower than the sellers who are in control. Okay, now your action plan, as you all know, is do nothing until that breaks higher, correct? Now, from this point onwards, so from this point all the way to before price breaks that last seller, if at any point higher volume than that seller begins to kick in, we say the buyers have just jumped in. And that would allow us to not worry about taking out this last seller before we get involved. Shall I repeat it one more time? Or you're all good?
I'm good.
Question. So even if the price is up the top here and we see this, we're assuming that's a buyer.
Very good. I'll cover that very point. Very good. I'll just come back to it. Yes, John?
I also wanted to ask this here. This volume is only from buyer side, not also from sellers?
No, it's only from the buy side. The seller volume is over here. It showed all its volume. Any volume that begins to come up after that lowest point onwards is the buyer side. And I'll talk about that maybe tomorrow, why just the buyer side.
If we have here high volume, here, into this zone, let's say.
Yeah.
Also, it's buyers.
Buyer side,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now,
Question, sorry.
Yeah.
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 It would clearly still make sense to wait for the release though, because your risk management would be crap, right? We wouldn't get in earlier, right? Like that wouldn't make no sense to make a trade here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
So that's spot on. So what generally happens is this. There are instances where volume, you see price could do this. Price could do that, and then the closer it goes, let's say somewhere here, at the face of the last seller, and then higher volume begins to come in. So we say, very good, that's a sign that the buyers are here. However, it's so close to the last seller that if we get involved, the only option we have is to put our stops below this whole bit at the bottom, which doesn't make sense, right? Why is that? Because we are saying that over here, as soon as we enter, it needs to break. That's what we are telling the market. It needs to break. However, more likely than not, what generally happens is that when volumes begin to kick in, prices begin to go away first, and then it shoots up. So you don't want to chase it as soon as the volume comes in. If you get a better price, then get involved. Otherwise, stand aside and wait for the break to happen. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can we just, sorry, the pullback is supposed not to have high value in order to go down, to continue down sales. Isn't this like that? If we're looking for sell,
Yeah.
the pullback shouldn't have a high value. Otherwise, there is a high possibility it's keeping go up.
Yeah. So let's say you have your in general terms, you have your move down, and let's say that comes in with strong volume as it's coming down, and then you want that overall pullback to come in with lower volume. Yeah, that's spot on. However, when volume begins to come in more at the top, let's say this is the pullback, and the volume begins to come in more at the top and not at the bottom, we say, look at this overview analysis of the volume for that pullback. There is more volume at the top of the pullback compared to the bottom. Does that make sense? So you could use that overview volume analysis for that pullback and say, oh, wow, there's more volume at the top than at the bottom. Yeah. Makes sense, Abdul Qadir? Yeah. Okay, so there's an example on the chart we can have a look at what we just discussed right now. Now, any questions before I move away from this and talk about one other piece?
Yeah, I have a question. Can we anticipate this entry?
Yes, this is where you can begin to anticipate the entry. But one thing to keep in mind is that at the moment, whatever we are doing, we're simply looking at setups, volumes within a setup. We haven't even talked about, does this sit properly within our bigger story? So yes, if it sits properly with our bigger story, which we'll discuss in the coming days, then yes, you can anticipate that buy for sure.
Okay.
Because always keep in mind that the setups are the least important. The stuff that we're doing right now, when you compare it with the bigger story, these are the least important. But you need them to understand the bigger story. You need them to understand how to read the market, how to read the charts.
Ali,
and when you put them with the right context, it becomes important and powerful. Yes.
maybe you can help us to understand slightly better. Let me try to annotate. Within this range, maybe you can help us understand better how will this volume transit. Maybe we have high volume at this area, right? I mean, then when the price is coming down, are we expecting the volume to be lesser? Like so until somewhere around this point here, and then suddenly the volume gets much higher.
It,
And then
it, yeah, it may or may not do that, but it's something that you don't have to worry about. As soon as you're within this area, a higher volume begins to kick in, higher than that seller's volume. That's the key. Above the seller's volume, then you say the buyers are here. All you're waiting for is some sort of a pullback or some sort of a better price to jump back in again. I'll talk more about that. I'll talk more about how to enter this. We'll cover all this. But as soon as you have higher volume, you say excellent. Because if you're waiting for that volume where you say, okay, I need more volume over here, this compared to this, I need more volume at the bottom over here compared to that, you may not get that. You may not get that.
understand. Thank
Sorry,
you.
one question. So just the one thing, I guess, confusing me a bit about this is, so we've said this is, I guess, a good downtrend because of the volume. And then we were saying that, you know, the higher volume up here compared to here means this could be a good pullback for a downtrend. So it's, for me, it seems to be telling me that the volume picking up again wants to take it lower because there's no volume here to compete with. Or is it the fact that this is really high that's now challenging whatever's up here? I'm just trying to wrap my head around that.
Yeah, let's do it with the story of what we're looking at to start with. So let's say, for example, the whole idea is that you are coming down and you want this move down to stop. That's the whole idea to start with. So you say, okay, well, it's overextended. I'm on the sidelines. I don't want to keep on selling this, but I want to see when this move stops. In other words, when a trap begins to come in. But every time it comes down, the seller comes down with a lot of selling pressure. And even that very last seller comes in with a lot of selling pressure. So you say, I'm going to stand aside. I will not touch this until that seller is not taken out. Because once that seller gets taken out, it means that this is the bottom. And then I can confirm, okay, that's the bottom. I can now get involved. However, a scenario is that the seller comes in with high volume and no other high volume comes on the buy side, and you only get to know once that trap comes in. That's one scenario. So in that case, you don't have any other option but to get involved as a release of that trap. But there are times when, while you're waiting for that trap to happen, higher volume begin to come in from the bottom up until it's looking to break that last seller. Anywhere higher volume could come in at any time. Now, when that happens, it's simply telling you that now you've got, and of course, like I said, the volume needs to be higher than that seller's volume. That's telling you that now, after such a long time, right, the buyers are saying, now is the time for us to get involved. We want it. We want to take it higher. We want to create this as our bottom. Why this as a bottom, and why this volume that comes in is a buyer's volume, I will mention that tomorrow. I'll tell you why it's a buyer's volume. Yeah, but that volume that comes in, it shows you that it's the buyers, they've just jumped in now. So that's where we say, okay, well, looks like that buyer is a lot stronger than that seller. Okay, let's get ready to buy.
Okay, so the overextended part is a big part of this
It
because
is a big part.
okay. So, but if this was leg 2 or something, I'd still be if this was just the start of a new breakout, for example, then I'd be seeing this volume thinking we're going to keep going.
If you see which volume,
oh, I'd say if this was a new move that just broke out,
yeah,
then if I saw this set up,
yeah,
with the volume coming back into a possible level,
yeah,
previously I've been thinking that volume coming into a level is a good thing,
yeah,
because someone's building orders to keep selling it.
Yeah.
But obviously this scenario is we're looking for the turnaround. So like that makes sense here because, the volume, we don't know what the volume is at the start, but it could be the whole overview of the whole thing could be getting, I guess, unhealthy or a lot more volume down the bottom.
Yes. Keep that thought. We'll come back to it. Keep that thought. But for now, with the scenario I've explained, just think about it and say, okay, well, in that scenario, yes, we need that volume to come in. But how does this apply to any other scenario? We'll come back to it. But keep that thought. It's good way of thinking.
Okay. Thanks.
Can I ask a question? Last question.
Yeah.
So in order to see the reversal, we have two scenarios to look at. Either the volume, the high volume at the bottom, or when it's popped up.
Yes. In this case, yes. Either if you don't see any strong volume that comes subsequently, then you say, I don't have any other option but to get all this trapped first because I have strong sellers. And that would be your very first approach. But while you're waiting for that trap to happen and you begin to see higher volume come in, you say, okay, I don't need to wait for this. I can get involved earlier.
Yeah. Thank you.
So is the idea behind this kind of like, we've already seen what the seller has, we've already seen his power. So if somebody comes in with bigger power, that's not the seller, that's got to be somebody else like the buyer.
Yes. But that's one piece, and then there's a bigger piece why it's a buyer. But the whole idea is this. The whole idea is that, you see, this is the whole idea. It will make a lot more sense because right now I'm more focused on the trap and what's inside the trap and what the details are. It'll make a lot more sense in a day or two where we say, why are we actually doing this? But for now, what we're saying is that you have a move down. And if you remember the first day I said to you that we're happy to sell early on, the more overextended it is, the more we are either on our toes or we are on the sidelines. But we're on the sidelines waiting for a trap to happen, because that trap, when it comes in, it will stop that move from going lower, either for a while or for a short term or for the longest term, right? But it will simply stop that move from coming down. So let's say, for example, you're selling early on, it begins to become overextended, but that last seller comes in with high volume at the top and low volume at the bottom. You say, yes, it's overextended, but the sellers are coming in strong. A pullback comes in, and that strong volume on the sell side maintains. There's no subsequent buyer's volume coming in. It begins to go lower. Right? Then you say, okay, well, let me have a look at what this last seller is. And then you see still strong volume at the top and low volume at the bottom. You say, damn, it's still the case. It's still going. It's overextended, but still going as an overextendedness. Whether it's a word or I'm just making it up, but you all understand my point. Yeah. And then you say, well, it's still going, it's still going. But then in this case, you say, all right, a pullback is coming in, but look, now there's higher volume while it's doing its pullback. Now the buyers have kicked in. Now that overextendedness it's got a higher chance to stop, and it's got a higher chance to take out that last seller to create that bottom or to create that stop of that overextendedness. Yeah, so the seller may show up as is still strong, but the buyers may come in a bit later than where you want it to come. So generally you say, okay, well, look, this is my last seller now. It's coming with high volume at the top, but the buyer, there's no buying pressure. You generally want to see more buying pressure around here, but it doesn't show up yet. And then you may just let go of this. And then later on, you see that happens. You say, oh, what just happened? Because in the meantime, higher volume begins to come in. And the buyers say, we are here now. We weren't there earlier. We are here now. Yeah, but for the buyers to come in, it makes sense because when it's overextended, no one's interested. The big boy doesn't want to sell that low. I'll cover that. I don't want to go a lot more in detail on that, but I'll cover that in a day or two where it will make a lot more sense. But for now, if you all simply understand that you have a move down and you're trying to stop it, for that stop, you need a trap. For that trap, you need the buyer's volume, the buyer's pressure. Yeah. And I'll talk about why all this. It will all make sense. Don't worry. It will all make sense. Donald, does that answer your question somewhat?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Thank you.
But I promise I'll come back to all this and explain what we're doing and why. And then that's where the whole story begins. This is right now all about the trap and the details of the trap. Okay. Let's do the flip side very quickly so you all understand how it looks on the flip side. So let's say you have, oh, before I do that, I almost forgot. So let's say you have your last seller. Last seller comes in with low volume. And then you have higher volume at the bottom. So that tells you there is more buying pressure, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But then somewhere in between that move down, let's say somewhere here, you also have very high volume. Yeah. What this simply means is that as the seller was initiating that move down, it initiated it with very low impact, or it wasn't showing its hand. It was very discreet. And then the lower it goes, the lower it goes, the lower it goes, it begins to come in with higher volume to break some sort of an SNR. When it breaks an SNR, you see stronger volume coming in. So either that seller comes in hard from day one and shows higher volume and comes in full speed. That way you see higher volume from day one, from the top. Or it might come in slowly and gradually, and then all of a sudden it will come in hard with higher volume. That generally happens when it's trying to break some sort of an SNR and it comes in with more higher volume. Now, when that happens, you simply say that that high volume belongs to the seller. It's still a seller's high pressure or selling pressure at the top. Yeah. So you'd always say, okay, well, okay, there is low volume at the top, but there is high volume as it's breaking that SNR. That high volume belongs to the top. Now I've got to compare that high volume with that high volume for the buyer's pressure. Which one's more? Yeah. Okay. All right, let's do it on the buy side. Let's say you have your last buyer. We say, okay, overextended. We need a stop of this move. Then you see your buyer, as it goes up, comes in with high volume. And at the top, you have low volume. So who can tell me, what do we do next? What's our action plan?
Nothing.
Nothing. We wait for that last buyer to get taken out. However, in the meantime, if from this point onwards, higher volume begins to come in higher than that last buyer, we say, okay, now we don't need it to break and give us a trap. Then we get involved. We can get involved earlier. But if that doesn't happen, we have to allow it to create a trap first. Yeah. Okay. Right. Scenario number 2 is when your last buyer comes in with low volume and you have higher volume at the top. What does that mean? And what action plan would you have?
This may hide.
If the trap aligns to the story, you're going to hit it up there.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. What was that?
Sorry, this is a scenario where the buyers, sellers are in control. Situate the trade number 1 that we talked about. This
Yes.
is a scenario you can do it if it aligns with the story.
Yes.
Joining the
Yes.
sellers.
Yes. So this is a scenario where we say we can be the one creating that trap. So we can get involved earlier and we have our trade number 1 early on, and then whatever comes back for the release, is your trade number 2.
I'm more of a macro level thinker, but I'm assuming like this is the only trade that we should be looking for at this spot. And then for the most part, all of them are going to be primarily releases. I mean, even if, right, because like the other one, not saying, yeah, the other ones where everyone was having more difficulty with, I mean, not saying I was, but more difficulty, usually it's going to revolve around more, not subjectivity, but better analysis of reading the volume after that spot. Am I correct?
No, they both have their own, say, character, and they both are good.
Okay, makes sense.
Ali, I thought yesterday we supposed to cover today how deep the release would go back, release area, comparing to the three scenario.
So that we've done yesterday already. That we said we've got type 1 where you have a lopsided and you draw your trap that way, and it needs to come in not here, not here, not here, needs to come in inside that trap area. And then type number 2 is when you have your
the range area
hold at the SNR, that's where it needs to come in. So that's how deep it needs to come in. And type number 3 is your at the last buyer.
Yeah.
But what do we do when it comes into the trap? We haven't covered that yet. What do we do when it comes into the trap? We haven't covered that yet. So that's something we'll do tomorrow. Yes.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. That's something we'll do tomorrow. Yeah. And of course, if then you have your other scenario where you have high volume on this end and high volume on the other end, then you have a two-sided market. And in this scenario, what do?
Leave it alone.
You leave it alone. You allow it to get taken out first. Now, accept that at any point you begin to have higher volume than that buyer that could come up where you say, okay, looks like now it wants to break through and create that trap. So let's say, for example, when you have a two-sided market, because you have volume on the top and on the bottom, and it begins to go sideways, 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 and then all of a sudden you see higher volume coming in around here somewhere, which is even higher than that last buyer. You say, looks like now it wants to go and break through that range and come lower. So you can use that information that way. Yeah. Okay, any questions so far before we go to the charts and have a look at some examples?
Nope.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at this. So let's do a proper analysis of this where we say, okay, we have this move coming down and we want it to stop. Let's see how it stopped. Let's see where the last seller is. Let's see what sort of volume do we have in the trap. And let's see what sort of trap is it creating, and so on. So let's do a proper analysis of this last piece. So who wants to go on and talk about this?
I can do it.
Welcome. You do it.
Let's see. So as it's coming down, breaks this area right here. Oh, drawing's not working there. So it breaks this area right here. This is our guy that does it right there. Comes down there, his lowest point, and then it takes him out right there. So we would draw our trap. So our trap would look right through here, through those bodies, down to that bottom there. Making it trap 1 because it just went through.
Okay, when is it that you think a trap has happened? At what point?
Oh, sorry. When it comes through here and takes out that seller, that last seller.
Okay, I'll come back to this. Okay.
Yeah.
Carry on. Yeah, carry on.
Okay. Yeah. So then I was looking at that as the trap is being set right there.
Okay.
And then that's when it reverses.
Okay. So for you, let's say if I do this, we say, all right, you have your last seller, begins to go up, you have a hold. Is this hold any good? Is this hold any important for us at this stage?
No, it's nowhere near.
It's nowhere near the SNR or the last guy, correct? You see, this is that example where we say the whole SNR and the last seller is the same thing. Because generally what happens is prices would go up and then drop, gives you your last seller. And then you say, okay, in that case, this is my SNR, this is my last seller at the top. And then if prices come back here, you say, okay, it's a type 2. Or if the prices go up here, okay, it's a type 3. But when the last seller and the SNR is flat that way, then you say, well, okay, if it comes back here, it doesn't matter. As long as it begins to hold, I can call it type 2 or type 3, doesn't matter. But I can see the hold. That's the whole idea. In this case, when it begins to hold, it's nowhere close to that spot. So we say, no good for us. Not a logical area.
Can I ask you a question, earlier?
Yeah.
Don't you think if you look at the volume, or if you compare the volume here at the pullback, the area pullback, with the breakdown, don't you think the volume is challenging that value?
Okay. Now we get into the volume and understand, but from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it will make more sense.
This is the breakdown's volume. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's do that first.
Yeah.
And let's have a look at the volume only for the last leg first. Yeah. So if I put my cursor this way at the top,
yeah,
and we see that's the volume you have
in the range
for that top. So you've got that much volume, or even that much volume for the top. Yeah. So let's say that's the highest volume for the top over here, that one over here. Okay. Now, if I move my cursor to the right, do you have more volume than that top volume?
Yeah.
If I move my volume to the right again, do you have more volume over here compared to here?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're simply saying that the volume, this volume, and that volume, which is the top volume and the bottom volume, there is more volume at the bottom, telling you there is more buying pressure at this stage, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where you begin to say there is more buying pressure from day one. Now, what happens after is that if you play this, then yes, you begin to have more volume coming in as it's looking to break that last seller, but we don't even need this. This would help us if, say, from day one, the sellers came in with more pressure, right? Okay, we have more information that the buyers are really strong. Look, it's trying to break through, and it's breaking through with stronger, higher volume. But we say we already know it's a buying pressure because of that.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, we already know it's a buying pressure because of that. Now, you see, this is that example where we say, if you begin to have more pressure, more volume over here, let's say, for example, I mean, in this case, you would be already in because you've seen the volume, the buying pressure volume. But let's say from here to here, there was more selling pressure compared to that buying pressure. Yeah, let's assume that's the case. Then you say, okay, I have to wait for this last seller to get taken out. I don't have any other option. And then all of a sudden you see, look, there is more now. There's no more buying pressure compared to that selling pressure. The buyers are here. But this is where we say, okay, sure, that's good news, but don't get involved because it's at the face of that last seller. What if it does this and then it goes? Yeah?
Right, then we can look to get in here.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense to chase it because it may not keep on going. It may come back first and then it goes. So I think it does that in this case. So you see it begins to come down, holds, and then it launches. Yeah? Then it
So, like,
launches.
this is good here. Sorry, it's moving. Right. This right here. Sorry, let me redo that. This would be the spot, correct?
Yeah, it'd be our entry would be at these prices. I'll talk about how, but it would be, this would be a good price away from that last seller to say, okay, this is decent. Let's begin to buy it from here.
Got it. Thank you. So one more thing, it's pretty much critical to know your SNR as it breaks down, because that's where you initially track your seller's volume, correct? Right, that's pretty critical.
Oh yes, right? You mean this, right? These
so,
areas?
Yeah, you have to know that and look at the volume there to gauge whether or not it's increasing on the way down, to then determine, okay, we have more to take trade, trade one, even in the face of large candles coming down, correct?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so to go back to what exactly is this, what's really happened is that it's come down as your last seller, tries to break up, so without the volumes for now, tries to break up, collapses down. So to come back to your point, Donald, this would not be considered a trap yet. Yeah, then it comes down and then it tries to break up. That's the example. That's the piece I was trying to tell you, the difference between knowing if the buyer is here when it breaks. So if I play this, you see, it breaks up strong when it holds. There's no sellers dominating. Can go higher, can go higher. It's a very natural, organic way of buyers coming in. That shows you you have a proper takeout of this last seller over here when that happens.
So if that's where the trap is set, where is the actual trap then? Does it go back to the original spot? Or?
Yeah. So then what we have is we have our last seller. We have it tries to go higher, comes right back in. All the holes are away from the SNR and the last seller. Even this one, when it goes up, is still a walk in the park type move where it's not holding, it's just going up, coming down, going up. So what we have is we have a type 1 trap over here.
So if that's the trap, does this already count as the release right here?
No, this is still part of that break.
Okay. So then we're still waiting for it to come all the way back down.
Yes. However,
to get the release.
Yeah. However, that would be your trade number 2. Because of the volumes, your trade number 1 would have already, you would have been in it at the moment, in the trade right now, as a buy. And that's only looking at the trap, the volumes. We haven't touched upon the story at all. So when we keep the story with us, we say, perfect, that's great. Yeah.
Sorry, not trying to get ahead here at all. But it's now it changes my mind. Now I know what you were saying earlier. Now it's definitely more beneficial to get this release here. Sorry, this type of trade if we see the volume with the story, or this, because the release trade, like at least from what I've seen so far, and obviously I have no type of screen time that you do, but I'm not really seeing releases that like come back and make sense within a reasonable amount of time, right? Most times I'm just seeing, and let me know if I'm wrong here, this is from the chart experience I've had for literally for just 2 days. I'm seeing like, if I can draw, I'm just seeing price just like, just take off from here and like it doesn't really come back. Not within like right? Okay, awesome. I just wanted to confirm that. Just because like I've seen a lot of chart time already where like I'm looking at these traps, I'm like, it's not coming back. Like it's not coming back for a release with the story.
Yes.
Now I don't know what the story is, but like I'm guessing, right? Just from looking at, like I'm just, if I'm seeing dominant, dominant energy of, buy flow or sell flow, right? When I see these traps happen, like I'm like, okay, I've never seen price come back one time. I wasn't going to say it in this class, but now that makes more sense. And now I know why you said you want to try to grab one of those 2 spots if you start seeing the volume come in. It makes a lot more sense now. Thank you.
Very good. You see, when these setups, although you see it right now on the 60 minutes, but when these setups belong to a higher time frame, right? When they belong to a higher time frame, then that move, let's say, for example, this is part of the daily, for example, right? Then the daily, and let's say the daily is doing this right now. This is that candle for the daily, for example, right? Then that daily candle on the 60, it will be a proper uptrend. Like it will be an uptrend or maybe I'll make it easier. Give me 1 second. So let's say, for example, this is what you see on the 60. And let's say, for example, on the daily, you have your last seller, you have your, I'm just creating a scenario, and you have your break of that last seller. Yeah. This is your last seller on the daily, and you have a break and you have a trap below. Now, that break on the daily will be a move that would be a proper uptrend for a while on the 60 minutes. So until that is not done, and then it begins to roll over on the daily, and then it begins to come back for the trap area, for the release, you would have forgotten all this because it's just going up and up and up and up on the 60 minutes. And it takes a while to come back to the release again, if that makes sense. So knowing what the story is, knowing where it's, which time frame it's coming from, does it belong to so-and-so time frame, helps you a lot to say that this break up is going to go up for a while. Get involved and begin to buy and hold and so on. So it will give you those clues to say, well, keep on going. This is a good buy coming in right now. Does that make sense, Nicholas?
Yeah, it does. That was a big aha moment for me. So like, and then also you keep these traps drawn on your charts, right? Like for a while, right? Knowing that it's there,
yes,
waiting, like potentially waiting for it to come back. But in reality, you have two chances, if not one, to really take advantage of that spot. And if you let it go, you're waiting for a long time. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thanks. Yeah. So that changes my mindset on when. That makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And whenever you have less selling pressure at the top and you have an opportunity to buy it early on, then you, and this will make more sense tomorrow as well when we talk about it, you are saying that there is less chance that when price is trying to break this last seller, that it would begin to fight over here. It's got a lower chance to fight over here, right? So that means that your move up could come in fairly quickly.
And that's why you showed type 1 first, or the trade 1 first.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I get it. Next.
Yeah, everyone, makes sense so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, mind blown.
Oh,
That's good. That's good. That's good.
but Ali,
Yes.
do you think it would be risky if I get entered in this point once I get the pullback here, the red candle?
You mean literally at the bottom over here?
At the bottom, over here.
No, if you get an entry over here, it's not risky. No.
Because once I read the volume, it's appears that's the good area.
Yeah,
The volume supports you.
Exactly. But it's this volume that helps you in this case, not this. This may come in. This may come in late. This may come in more towards the top.
Exactly. I think comparing this volume with this one.
Exactly. Yeah, but we'll add more layers to it. So far, we're saying you have a trap and you have volumes. This is how the volumes will help you. We'll add more layers to it to say, how can we more safely buy this? We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's have a quick look at one more example. And this is something maybe we touched upon yesterday. However, this is that move coming up for that highest price we say, okay, that pullback wasn't able to go higher, so not you. Comes down, wasn't able to go higher, not you. Comes down, yes, now it's able to go higher. You're my last buyer. Everyone's good so far?
Yes, I was looking at this exact example yesterday on the charts.
Yeah.
After it was over, just to make sure this bar right here does in fact close. Sorry, this one right here. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That closes above all this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Yes. And if we were to be a bit more technical, we say, okay, let's start from here. Let's do it very quickly. We say prices are going up, going up, going up. At the moment, that's the highest price. And if that's the highest price, then if we put our line over here on the highest price, and this becomes our last buyer, if you all follow so far.
Yes.
Yes. So we say, okay, if this is the highest price over here, then as soon as price begins to close above this highest price, our buyer would shift. Then we say, okay, comes down, goes up, does not close above this price. So we don't shift that last buyer yet. And then comes down again, never closes above. When then it comes down and now it closes above, we're saying it's closing above that price and not that price, if that makes sense. It's that price. This is closing above that price. This is the focal point, not these ones. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we say, all right, that's our last buyer here. Now let's have a look at the volumes over here. So that's the lowest point of that last buyer. What volumes do you see? Pretty bad, pretty low, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, as soon as I go right, do you have more volume?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have more volume now?
Yes.
And do you have more volume now?
Yes.
Okay. Now, are we at the top yet of that
No.
last move? No. So keep that where my cursor is right now. Keep that in mind, and let's go further. If I go to the right now, is the volume going up or going down?
It's
Down.
going down.
And now going up or going down?
Down further.
Down.
Okay. Okay. So far we say this is the highest volume, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I put a line over here on this highest volume. Now, this is the last buyer. This candle is in between that move, and this is the highest point, correct?
Yes.
Is this candle over here where we have the highest volume at the moment? Is that any important? Can you think about it for a minute?
I would say, yeah, it's the buyer pressure, buyer pressure,
Why is that?
because I think even if we don't have a high volume here down here, once we gain any volume in the middle, it's the same. It's as if we still in buying area.
Because it's trying to break that SNR.
Top. Yeah.
That's why. You're spot on, but just if you add that piece to it, it's trying to break that SNR. So this high volume over here, which belongs to that candle, is part of the buyer's volume. Yeah? Okay. Now, that means that from here to here, the buyers have more pressure than the sellers, correct?
Correct.
So what we need to do then is we need to get that taken out first, then we get involved. That's the game plan. Except if at any point from here to here, higher volume begins to come in, correct? Okay, let's do that. So we have a line over here, that dotted line of the highest volume. And I'm going to put my cursor and move it right. So if I move right now, do we have higher volume than that highest volume?
No.
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 Now,
Nope.
No.
now,
Nope.
No.
now,
Nope.
now.
Yes.
Yes. That's the volume that's telling you that the sellers are now in town. They've jumped in now. Yeah. And this is where you say, okay, well, how do I enter this? And you say, and then you of course gauge, is this far away from your last buyer, or it's decent to get involved and to sell that piece? So we'll talk about what this piece is, how do we gauge, how do we sell this, how do we enter it? But the key thing is, if this was, let's say, somewhere here, you say, I don't want to touch it. It's too close to my last buyer. Yeah. Make sense, everyone?
Yes.
It does.
Yeah. Okay. And like I said, we haven't even spoken about what this piece is. We have no idea. It's just looking at the trap and the volume and making sense of, okay, what do those volume mean inside those trap? Yeah. Yes, John?
Okay, so we're focusing on the buyer, the last buyer who started here because we're in a uptrend. But I couldn't help to notice that. So a little bit to the left of your arrow, we've got that massive red candle downwards with that yellow volume that's really, really high.
Okay.
So what do we make of that?
Nothing, because this is still part of that move coming down, and that move coming down never did anything.
So you wouldn't consider that killing the guy over here before?
You mean to say that last buyer over here?
Yeah.
And that comes down, takes it out?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like the way it goes back in. You know how we said when it takes it out, if you're a strong seller, you will do this.
Just got to continue.
This.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that sort of a move that you like.
Okay.
But you see, so far, even though, like, say, for example, over here you have a trap, right? If the story is not with you, even if you have a trap, it may still do whatever it wants and then keep on going higher. That's why I'm saying the story is of utmost importance. This is simply a setup. But if you put that setup with the right story, then you say, okay, this sell.
Really? Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
I think John has told that this buyer is knocked out by the seller, and some, in my opinion, is it like this? This whole area is trapped and is coming to release this. Can you see like this?
No. So this move over here, this is your last buyer. This is your line where you say, okay, if it breaks
below,
whenever it breaks this last buyer, you always want a seller that is a natural, organic seller, which it keeps on going lower, does a nice rollover, and then it comes back. You don't want a breakdown and then comes right back in. Not that. That's a faker. And generally, these things happen because this whole thing, it may look like this may look like a strong seller for you, but this whole thing belongs to a much higher time frame, where for that higher time frame, this is nothing. If that makes sense. Right? And we'll talk about how to spot that this whole thing belongs to a higher time frame. We'll cover that. But for now, just to keep you at ease, when you have a break, always say, I don't like it when it comes out, goes right back in. Give me a break that
Healthy.
that just keeps on going lower and lower. Yeah, James, good.
Just one more question with the volume read.
Like
So
say
sometimes,
sorry,
Yeah,
like
sorry.
say, for example, this break, it doesn't do that right now. It is doing this, trying to launch, coming down, and so on. But because this whole thing is a much higher time frame, and I'll explain how to know that, right? We say, okay, what if on the higher time frame, this is a move down and it's like that? So because the whole context is we haven't even looked at it, we say we don't want to get into that at this stage. And in the future, in the coming days, we'll be looking at the story first and then these setups. This is only for us entering, or it's only for us telling us it's now getting ready to go. But we don't look at this if we don't know what the story is. Yeah, so we'll do it in the right sequence. I'm just trying to show you stuff, show you enough stuff where you can begin to read the chart from next week together with me. Yeah, so piece by piece. Yes.
so just with the volume read, because sometimes I've heard Naveen and some people in the league talk about going down a time frame just to see exactly where the volume's appearing. Is that necessary, or can we read everything we need just from your time frame?
Generally, yes. However, sometimes, let's say, for example, this one. Let me go back to that USD yen. Sometimes, or maybe to make it even easier, let's say you have a move down, you have your move up, and then the last seller comes in one candle. Yeah, so it comes all the way down in one candle. And then you have high volume over here. Then you're saying, well, I don't know if this volume is at the top or it's at the bottom.
Lower time frame.
Yeah. So then you say, okay, well, I'm on the 60 right now. Let me go to the lower time frame so I can break down these candles on the smaller time frame to see is the volume at the top or more at the bottom. Does that make sense, right?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so again, a lot of information today. So if you can, please do rethink, think about what we've done so far. Think about how does it all come together in your brain, in your mind, so I can further go deeper. And then when we go deeper, then whatever is forming in your mind, I will twist it a bit. I will refine it a bit. So whatever conclusions you're putting you're creating in your mind, do that. So when I refine it, it will become easier because you have something that I can change, if that makes sense. And even if you don't want to do it that way, it's fine. I'll just put something in your brain.
It makes sense. You just changed mine about 10 minutes ago. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Just how you said you were looking at Aussie USD and you were looking at it. So when I come back and talk about it, there was something in your mind, in your brain, some conclusion. And then when I add to it, it makes it easier to change it.
Yeah, it makes it better.
Okay, well, let's leave it to there and we'll go deeper tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank
Any
you, Ali.
question? I
Thank
think
you. Great.
I
great
appreciate
question.
it.
One question
Thanks,
to
Ali.
Ian.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, one question to Ian. Sir, is the Asia session meant that unicorn same to this New York? I'm asking to Ian because he has done to I think Lucas. I think.
Sorry, what's your question, James?
Yeah, I was asking to Ian that is the Asia. He has done this Asia session. I think. I'm asking that is that same with it you are doing here?
Now, I think Lucas does the London, right?
Yes, I did the UMP with Lucas in January.
So
Yeah.
is that same with this?
Yes,
I mean
yes.
the type of
Yes,
All the concepts are the same.
yeah,
Yeah,
concepts. Yeah.
but
the concepts.
I think they have different
Yes,
styles
a
on how they
little bit
teach.
different. Yes. Okay. But anyway, I do not have. I forgot most of them, so now I try to fix and refine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the concepts are the same. So whatever you learn in the London from Lucas and over here, same concepts. Because we both are we both are trained by Naveen.
Now it's very fast.
Ali, I would ask you. I think someone from the team asked you yesterday about this recording. How long going to have it?
Yeah, it's going to be so with this. Once the 2 weeks ends, you'll have it for a month.
For a month.
So after the 2 weeks, you'll have it for a month.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. See you all tomorrow.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks.
Right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks, everyone.